I moved to Eastern Oregon in November of 2019. A lot of people think I'm totally insane for living rurally.
I think that people assume that to be a successful artist, you have to live in New York or Los Angeles or Paris or London. And I think living and making art somewhere that inspires you is the most important thing, because the personal work is always what's going to fulfill you, and it's what's going to get you other work. I mean, that's why we're artists, right? We started making something because we had to make something. So staying in touch with that is super important.
I've been working as a photographer literally my whole adult life, before my adult life started. I was noticed very early on by PDN, by Communication Arts, American Photo, and by some brands. Like Converse was my first client. They actually reached out to me via Flickr. And then it just kind of snowballed from there. I shot the cover of the New York Times when I was like 16. I was shooting for Nike.
I traveled so much from the ages of 16 to 23. You know, I was on a plane twice a week, 3 times a week, sometimes 4. And it was an incredible way to see the world. I learned so much. I met so many amazing people. I saw so many beautiful things, but it just left me feeling burnt out, not knowing where home was. I needed a sort of grounding to take me back to myself and take me back to the things that really mattered to me, and honestly take me back to those values I learned in childhood.
I was a very emotional child, emotional adult, and needed an output for my input of all the feelings that I had. So I was 11 and I went to an art-based middle school in Portland, Oregon, where I grew up. I signed up for video production, but was given photography. My earliest photographs were primarily with the people around me that I wasn't nervous to ask for a photo of them. So I was shooting like my mom in the kitchen, my little brother, my best friend who I'd known my whole life, and I also turned the camera upon myself. I started exploring what was around me, but also my inner world, and what that world was that you build with your best friend when you're a little kid. And you know, I look back at my early photographs and I still see the photographs that I take now in those photographs. It's about the connection to place, it's about the connection to the people around you, to yourself, and whether that's a setup photograph where I'm like in 1800s dresses in a pond, or it's a portrait of my brother on the couch. It's always about the magic of life and the sentimentality that brings us together as people. I think also when I'm shooting someone's portrait, like maybe when I'm shooting a musician and they have like this whole world behind them of their music and of themselves, and that's really front and center, like I have to be empathetic enough to like tap into the general vibe that they give off, the general emotional aura. And I feel like I learned that through taking pictures of my friends when I was younger, and through taking pictures of myself through these chapters of my life. I shoot film for a few reasons. One of them is I feel like it helps me be more meditative and like in the moment when I'm taking a picture. If I don't just look at it, like I really have to feel when the moment's probably going to happen, and I'm not critiquing it at the same time, because I feel like you can't critique and make something at the same time. Like they have to happen one after the other, or with space. I also love that film is tangible. You can light leak it, you can scratch it, you can use the wrong processing. There are endless possibilities of how to mess it up, and it's just so beautiful. My favorite photographer of all time is Sally Mann. She photographed documentary mixed with this fantasy of what her life was like. Georgia O'Keeffe is like my other favorite artist. She made her life art. You know, she lived in New Mexico on this beautiful ranch. She would like ride her horse up a mountain all the time. She painted the same mountain a million times. Like, I'm so inspired by creating a life that you think is beautiful, and then you document that subconsciously or consciously. Like, sometimes it's an inadvertent documentation of that life, and Georgia O'Keeffe has always super inspired me for that. It really helps me to have an archive of all those things that have happened, all those things that I've felt, all those phases that I've gone through. And I think it helps me understand myself. And the other thing is they all inform each other. You know, I'll paint one day or I'll make the rug, and it'll kind of inform like a picture, or like I'm taking a photo and it will inform how we should do something with the pigs or the chickens or whatever. Like, I think as a photographer, where you're making images and art out of what's in front of you, like, you have to have interesting stuff in front of you, or else, like, what are your pictures? Everything that I go through in my life is going to come out in some way, in a picture, in a song, or in a painting, or the way I decorate my room. You know, it's all a processing of existence and experience. The world that I see and that makes me remember why the world is a really wonderful place is one that's more dreamy and evocative and colorful, but also subtle. When I'm taking pictures for myself, and especially of myself, I kind of just let, like, okay, I've got this picture in my head, like, I want to make it. I'm just going to make it and not question it, not analyze it. Like, I can kind of figure out what it means later. I'm not making it for anybody else. I'm just making it for me and my turning over of feelings and events in my life. I think the best work is personal. The work that you make for yourself that then you give away to the world, people are going to relate to that. So I hope that when people look at my pictures, they can see themselves in them. So often we put ourselves in these boxes, and it's a societal thing that you can be one thing, but it has been really liberating to explore all of these interests I have and see how they can kind of come together in a life and in my person. I think as much as me taking the photo, it's also choosing the life and choosing the situation to take the photo in, which is like building the life that I want to build. Life and art go hand in hand. You know, you can't have one without the other. I forget who said it, but it's like the best art imitates life. And I think, yes, and the best life also imitates art. My name is Olivia Bee. I live in Eastern Oregon, and I am a photographer and filmmaker.